And that's nice. Now you just gotta add some copyright-free music lyrics.
Okay. All right, we are live, guys, and I am so excited. So excited. So we are here with Mr. Andy Fickman, director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Film noir right now, right? Very film noir.
It is film noir.
Murder.
With the light shadows.
By the way, just so you know, I got a whole crew standing over here making the light come across that way. I got 48 people in here.
That's what it takes.
We see you. We see you.
I'm socially distanced. Most of them are outside. So, but I like wherever I go, I have to have a big crew.
That's what it takes to get that lighting in.
Right. None of this is natural. None of this is natural.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited. Welcome to the Too Legit to QT with Koya and Tish podcast. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Today, we are here with Hollywood director Andy Fickman. Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the show and talking with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I was thrilled.
Oh, you're welcome. So we're about to get into our bag and let people know about how to level up with you. So are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So, Andy, I mean, I was looking at everything that you've done, and you have literally had an amazing career. I mean, you've created some movies that we like grew up on, like Hocus Pocus with Bette Midler. I love that movie. Me and my sister, we love that.
I was just the executive on that one. I didn't create it, but I was.
Well, you were part of it. Yes, you were part of it.
I got a T-shirt.
Yes, and you directed Man of the House with Chevy Chase.
That one I was still just the executive on it.
Executive on that one.
Yes. But okay. I got a T-shirt.
You got a T-shirt. Okay.
T-shirt.
No, but speaking of that, as we're getting into the conversation, you have worked with some really great, or seen some really great comedians. Richard Pryor, Chevy Chase, Gene Wilder, who is like, my God. So how was it to work with these people?
I mean, your response was my response, and the opportunity to not only work with them, work for them. I did development for Gene Wilder for several years, where I had the opportunity to meet Richard, and when we worked. There was a project we were doing, and when you meet your idols, there's always a little fear that they are going to disappoint you. And that I've been very lucky that was not the case. For many years, after I worked for Gene, I went to work for Bette Midler, who I'd loved, and that's when we did Hocus Pocus and multiple other movies. And then years later, as a director, I got to direct Bette and Parental Guidance, but that was with Billy Crystal, who was one of my all-time favorites. So, if you have any sort of good luck within your career, you're going to be surrounded by some amazing talent. And in that case, when working with just some of the funniest people around, you just spend as much time laughing. I've done multiple projects with Kevin James. We're doing a new series for Netflix now. And Kevin's just nonstop laughter. Like I always feel like I'm just sort of a guest on the set watching the show.
Yeah, and if you're like, for me, I'm kind of like I love Gene Wilder. I love Richard Pryor. If you are into like the classics, old classics, then for me it's always like such a treat, because I never will be able to meet them, because they're gone. To meet people who have met them, how were they?
Gene was a genius. He was a writer. He was a director. He was a producer and an actor and a novelist, writer, and he and his producing partner Susan Ruskin really did an amazing job of I was a kid out of Texas, so I grew up watching every movie I could. So then to sit there, I mean, they were educating me on foreign films. If you grew up in Texas, a foreign film is a movie made in Oklahoma or Arkansas, like that was foreign. And so they were helping me get an education in film. Richard, I mean, I had, every album that Richard Pryor had ever made. And so the opportunity to be in his presence, a lot of part in his life when he was struggling and dealing with a lot of health issues. Right. But you just feel, as you say, you just feel blessed and lucky that you are there. And I feel that way anytime I come across actors like that I've just had the opportunity to be fans of forever.
Yeah. And also, since after that, you were able to do some really great films. She's the Man, I absolutely love. It plays off of Shakespeare's The Twelfth Night, right?
Yeah.
So it has that feel to it. And I love when they remake movies like that and make it modern. And so that was one of my very, very favorite movies when I was younger. Also, you've done Race to Witch Mountain, which I also know about the original. I've seen the original, so you did a great job of making it like your own and creating like new voices in that movie. And you just keep hit after hit after hit of family films. So I have to know, like, from working as an executive, how did that lead to you working as a director?
It's an interesting leap, because when you are behind the scenes as an executive, you are seeing every discussion. You're the one putting lists together with directors on it. You're the one putting writers lists, actors lists. So you kind of approach it with a big, wide-ranging idea of how do you get the movie made. When you are a director, it's all about that vision of what you're going to do. I think what I was able to take with me, and I think I've taken with me, is every time I approach a new project, sometimes if the executives don't know, I try to let them know I was on the other side for a long time. So you can talk straight with me. You don't have to coddle me. You don't have to treat, you can say that we don't like that. We don't like, and as an executive, those were the things that I always wished I could do at times, and creatives that I could be really comfortable with. It was just a lot easier, I think, to collaborate, which all we do in the entertainment industry is collaborate.
Right.
Was it like an organic process from an executive to directing to producing, or did you like reach a point after a couple of years of like working as an executive where you were like, I want to direct, or was it a strategy to it?
It was a little bit of the reverse, which was I just wanted to direct. I wanted to direct. I wanted to write. I wanted to produce. But when I moved here, when I moved to LA, I didn't know how to do any of that. And I literally graduated from Texas Tech in Lubbock, Texas. I'm assuming it was your second choice school. And I was a proud Red Raider. Am a proud Red Raider. But you come from Lubbock to Los Angeles, and I sounded pretty much. This was me when I got to Los Angeles, and I was me just talking like, "Hey y'all, I want to make a movie with you," and so you can imagine it was a little bit more difficult. So the first job I could get was I was a tour guide at Universal Studios, which probably was the hardest job I ever had to audition for, and loved it. And so as I was trying to find my way, I had helped create a theater company in Los Angeles called the Fountainhead Theater Company, and that was giving me opportunities as a director on stage. But I just found myself, in Hollywood going the executive route, which was kind of paying the bills and was giving me a life. So, and the longer that went, the older you got, you start thinking, if I don't make a leap now. I don't know when I'm going to. And a project I did, Reefer Madness, which started as a musical at my theater at the time in Los Angeles, and then ended up moving to New York and becoming a big fancy award-winning movies for Showtime. That was the big, I think, change, because at that moment you sort of had to leap. And an amazing woman, Verna Hara, whose company, the last company I was an executive at was Middle Fork Productions. We made Anaconda, our giant snake movie. And Verna was such an amazing supporter, and it's where I met my producing partner, Betsy Sellinger. And Verna was the one who said to me, point blank, you have to make a decision. You're either going to stay and be an executive, or you're going to go out in the big scary world and try to make it as a director and a writer. And that was the push I needed.
So you never pigeonholed yourself. You always said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to move forward.
The only thing I ever can imagine was my earliest memories was I just wanted to be creating. I just loved movies and film, television and theater so much. That's all I wanted to do. And so from a young kid, when you dream that's, you sort of hold on to it. My son, Austin, who just graduated USC in cinema, and he, his mom was a wonderful actress and turned talent manager, and he grew up in that environment. And I've watched him have the same sort of passion. And he's a lot smarter than I am, but I watched him have that same sort of passion about movies and learning that, it is that classic, whatever point in life the bug gets you, it is hard to shake that bug. And those conversations about, I just want to do this. And at this point in life, I realize I'm not capable of doing anything else. I could not hold another job because I don't have any skills. I have no skills. And I could make a paper airplane. I made a paper airplane, but I don't know who pays me for that. Maybe it's somebody. I could put this on Etsy. I could make more of these. But that's where I am.
No, I hear you on that. You know what I wonder though? What were some of your childhood inspirations as far as directing is concerned?
Well, I was very lucky. Gary Marshall was one of my favorite directors because I loved everything he did on television. I loved his films. I had the opportunity to end up meeting him, and he gave me my first award in Hollywood for Reefer Madness, and I turned to him on a regular basis for advice and mentorship. And I then had the opportunity to direct him both in Race to Witch Mountain as well as on television and Liv and Maddie. And so having that, Gene Wilder was another one. I just grew up and loved all of his movies. So the opportunity when I got to Hollywood to start looking at directors and meeting them and finding out what their vision. She's the Man was produced by the amazing Lauren Schuler Donner, the best producer ever, and her husband Dick Donner, one of my all-time favorite directors. And so, the minute I got to meet Dick Donner, I was like, I'm not worthy. I don't know what So asking, those opportunities to meet people, to ask questions, again, just feeling very blessed and lucky.
I see a theme in all of the movies that you are associated with. I mean, they all have a feel-good kind of quality to that. And you have such an outgoing personality, and you're so fun and playful. What attracts you to a project?
I think it's very kind of you to say that. I'm attracted to, I'm a kid who grew up looking at movies in the mall. I'm attracted to movies and television that I would want to watch. So I was never, and I love watching everything. So there are so many amazing, important films, and I walk away and I'm crying and I'm all of that. I like to entertain. I like if you can put a smile on someone's face for a couple of hours. That's a pretty good gig. Family entertainment's a really tricky area because you're trying to find 4 quadrants. Can you make adults laugh and kids laugh? And kids are really just brutally honest. Like kids will be like, "That sucks," and you're like, "I don't." That's literally just my own son just yelling at me as well. Just showing them like footage. I'm like, that's rude. But kids at any age, like, they fidget, they get bored. And then you have the other side, which is the adults. And the adults are the ones who will be like, I didn't want to take my kid to that movie. I didn't want to do. And so you try to find. My wife, Kristen's she's a amazing writer. Film and television, and a lot of times, she'll get so excited about something, and she'll look at me and be like, "You could direct this," and I know where it's coming from because it feels like it's in my wheelhouse, and I'll look at it and be like, "Yeah." So I think you just want to get excited by material. It's a long time to get things made, and more importantly, it's a long time to watch a lot of things you love disappear. So for everything you get made, there's 10 things that didn't get made. And you're going to fall in love with all of those. And you're going to spend years trying to move something forward. It's never a phone call and like, "Hey, here's a script. Let's start shooting on Tuesday. See you then." It's just a lot of heartbreak. And so your energy has to remain so positive. And I feel by the time you get to a movie or television or theater, you've gone through so many obstacles that hopefully you are smiling, because now you got about another year ahead of you to create it, bring it to life. And then you still have to watch it come out. And sometimes your movie comes out, it's a big hit, or your TV show comes out and it's a big hit, or your theater, big hit. Other times, all that time, and, nobody's, your mom calls you and is like, "Why did you make that movie?" And I don't know, how did you get my phone number? That's got to stop. And but that's this process.
So what are some of the obstacles that you've faced and you've had to overcome?
I'm not super tall, so a lot of times the building doors, sometimes door handles are tricky. I don't know how to. And then I'm always like, I've directed The Rock a couple of times, and he's actually very tiny. He's like 4'11", and then we just shoot him big. And my journey's I don't think any different than anyone else, which is we're trying to find somebody to say yes. You are trying to find somebody to help that next process. And as passionate as you are, you write a script and you're like, "I love it." And you give it to 5 people and 5 people are like, "It's great." And then you're like, "Well, the first 5 people that I live with told me they love it." And then you give it to someone you don't know and they're like, "I'm confused. Why does the dog talk?" And you're like, "Because the name of the movie is Talking Dog. So the dog had to talk." So you just get frustrated that along the way, there are so many opportunities for speed bumps. And sometimes you learn from those speed bumps. Sometimes you think, "You know what, you're right. That's a good note. I'm going to adjust it." Sometimes you start creating it in one arena and it changes. Sometimes a film becomes a TV show. Sometimes a straight play becomes a musical. And that's part of the creative process too. I mean, I'm always inspired by great artists, whether it's a novelist or a painter or a musician or a dancer, and you hear their story and you think that, they're, for every amazing Rolling Stone song, I'm sure there is a room of songs that no one's heard yet.
Right.
I think that's part of the process. Is you just have to, you got to accept that no is not the end. No is just a shut door. You just got to keep going until you find the door to open.
It's interesting that you talk about that. I'm hearing you just talk consistently about mindset. And what type of qualities and mindset do you think that people need to succeed for longevity in this industry?
I think that your hope is that you can just stay positive and passionate, knowing that you are going to be told no so much. I spend a lot of time, we've had a lot of interns at our company. I speak at a lot of universities. And one of the things I would always sort of get known for a bit was the opposite, which is I'd start very negative. I would sort of talk about the most horrible things, like you're not going to make it. And part of it was, if I'm the one who convinces you you're not going to make it, you were never, it was never meant to be. And it should be that it's just picking yourself up by the bootstraps and moving forward. And so I try to treat each day like it's a new day. What I love about creativity for all of us, an actor, a producer, a writer, that's on us. Like nobody's gonna call us. Maybe somebody calls and is like, hey, here's an offer, but you have an idea. It's up to you to create it. I'm gonna create my stuff. You're gonna create your stuff. Maybe we're gonna come together, but that means you wake up every morning having that new energy. And we've all been like, there are times when every day feels like a pandemic. There are times when you wake up and you're like, I'm just going to lay here and watch Scooby-Doo all day long. And does McDonald's deliver? And by deliver, can they just bring it to my bed and just put it? Can they just feed me? Just drop a McNugget and just drop a McNugget and just pour. I don't care what the sauce. Just pour it in my mouth and leave your fries. And I'll just we have those days all the time. And then worse, we're in an industry where it's all show off. So, your project isn't going forward. And then the next day, all over social media or all over the news is like, hey guys, I just sold my movie and we're going to film it. And you're like, yay. I can't wait to see that you sold that. And they're like, yeah, it was the hardest 4 weeks of my life to create it. And you're like, okay, I got the script that I spent 9 years on, and there's literally a dead person under it who's holding it. There's a skeleton holding the script. I'm just going to go tell that's my old writing partner. He died waiting for it to happen. I'm so excited that it took you 4 weeks. That's great. Tom Cruise is going to do it too. Oh, that's fantastic. I just going to go over here and watch Top Gun and cry. I don't think other industries, I just don't think that happens in a lot of other industries. I guess it does. Everybody is competitive, but ours is just so in your face, or we all have ideas and then all of a sudden, nope, that's just like the idea I had. And somebody else went and made a movie about it. And so, oh, good. I'm so glad I'm watching it. That's how it would have looked if my name was on it. And then you have to call your mom and explain what you do for a living, and she doesn't understand any of it, and still sending you pamphlets for job choices, or you're a grown-up man, and she's like, have you considered applying for another position? You should learn a tech trade. I'm like, I can't even operate my computer. How am I going to learn it? Who's calling me to come fix something? But that is, so your family doesn't help you either, staying positive. And, you spend all that time writing a script for free. You're writing a spec script. That is your job. You write that script. You put your heart into it. And then all you hear back is, who's paying you for that? And then you can't have to say it because you say it, you hear it, where you're like, well, nobody. And they're like, so you spent how long writing something for nobody? Somebody might buy it. That is an actor going on auditions. Who pays you for the audition? Well, nobody. I will get paid someday when I get hired. That doesn't sound like a job. Right? That just sounds like what do you do for a job? And you're like, that's my job. I believe in me.
That's just like when you're talking about the script, how you're sitting on a script for like years, that seems to be the story of my life. Like you'll have like a script and then you'll be talking to someone and then they'll be like, yeah, I just, made 2 movies. And, yeah, I'm working on my 3rd one right now. And then you're like, hold up. I've been working on this one movie for 5 years and I can't get one person to fund it, but you did it in what, a year? And you got 2 movies made? And
no matter what, those people will find you. You will never be found by people who are like, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years and I haven't. No, you will only find the people who are like, while I'm talking to you, I'm filming my movie. I'm literally on my phone talking to you while I'm filming. Hold on, action. Anyway, it's so great to get caught up with you. I'd love to talk to you later, but I'm going to go sell something and film it right after this. Those are the people who find you. And then you go home and you're, again, back to being like, how do I stay positive? How do I create something new? It's a little bit like dating. You go out on X, Y, and Z dates, and then you're like, all right, that didn't work. Now how do I try it again? And maybe I try something a little different. We should have some sort of like Tinder scripts where we just swipe. No. By the way, I'm still holding on to this in case somebody wants to bid on it. I'm going to sign it. I know The Rock.
We're starting bids in the comments.
I can't. It's hashtag artist struggle.
That's what it is.
That's what it is.
You want to know what I was going to say too? One of the common themes that we have with our interviews is people always say, create your own opportunities. Like you have to get out there and start doing things for yourself. How did you start your production company?
And first of all, congratulations to you both because I'm on your show. You created an opportunity, right? Like I didn't call you and say, hey, do a show that I can come and be on. You called me, and so you created something. Same with me. I was looking for opportunities and realizing, again, my producing partner, Betsy Sellinger, she and I had just been together for so long talking about what if, that we decided, what if we create our own opportunities? And we have been very blessed and lucky to have talented people working with us. Our head of development, Mary Kate Mead, is just very smart and keeps things going. And we have partnered with so many wonderful writers and directors and producers and actors. We try to have a no assholes policy. So, and that usually is just Betsy telling me not to show up to a meeting. Apparently I'm the asshole. So, but I learned. But you just create, I think it was just both of us realizing that rather than waiting for somebody to give us that script, why don't we go create that script? And it was the smartest move I ever made. Because if not, it doesn't mean that you can't wait by the phone for your agent or manager to call you or for a friend to call you. But we're in the business of creating ideas, and ideas come a mile a minute. And rather than putting it in a shelf for 4 years, we just try to jump as quickly as we can.
For you and your producing partner, me and Tish, like my strengths are her weaknesses and her weaknesses are my strengths. So at the same thing, we were like, oh, we should start a podcast. We should. And we just ended up saying, okay, let's stop saying we're going to do. Is that the dynamic with you and your producing partner? Is her strengths your weaknesses and vice versa?
No, she's just strong and I'm weak. So ultimately it's just, I'm just weak. I just follow her. Sometimes she lets me talk. Another time, we complement each other in the sense that we have very different tastes too. And at the same time, we both know, I think, what the other one would respond to. If one of us is like, I hate it, then again, it's a long time and a lot of energy to get something made. You don't want to slog it around if you don't love it. And sometimes you have to talk through just the business of it. Where does this land in the landscape? How much time is going to be allotted for it and how do we get it made. If we have a plan that comes together quickly in our heads, we know that generally we made the right choice.
Okay. Wow. The name is so interesting. Oops Donuts Entertainment. It's still that same theme of playfulness. How did you guys come up with the name?
The name is 1,000% courtesy of my son, Austin. When he was very little, for a long period of time, the only thing he would ever say to his mother and myself was, oops, donuts. He just said it all the time. We have no idea why, but it was like, he'd be like, you want that? He's like, oops, donuts, oops, donuts. So by the time it was time to think of a company name, a lot of times you're like, it should be the name you grew up, the street you grew up on or something. It just felt like Oops Donuts was perfect. And I love that people ask about it and I can tell that story. The flip side is over the years, at any given point, somebody calls the office asking what donuts we have that day.
Oh, that makes sense.
And we were in one meeting once with a team of people who had given us the suggestion, maybe you guys should also start a donut place where, as well as your production company. I was like, so it's hard enough to sell movies. Now you want me to sell apple fritters? I might look like I have eaten a lot of donuts, but at no point have I ever walked in and been like, guys, wait till you take this blueberry muffin. It is going to rock your world. That ain't happening. So, and then I think I got depressed. I was like, wait, are they telling me I should just quit? Like, is that the easiest way to be like, the movie thing? Well, how would you feel about just selling donuts? And I was like, and obviously nothing wrong with selling donuts. I just don't have a recipe or equipment to sell the donut. So I had to say no. And then
I think you could do it. You could totally sell donuts. You could totally sell donuts. You want to know why?
Niche.
No, let me tell you, because things don't sell itself, people sell it, and you're a people person. Okay. So
I love you, and I've known you for a long time, but I appreciate it. But this is what I have, this vision now. I'm literally standing next to that thing in the wind that blows people, like does this for people to see him. And I'm holding a sign that's literally written like apple fritters half price. And I got good energy in the morning because this thing's happening. I like it. I'm trying to keep up with it. But after like 5 people turning me down, then I'd be like sad guy. And then my thing would be like that. And then at the end of the day, I'd just give you an apple fritter. I'd be like, you want one? I got 800 apple fritters I can't sell. And then at the same time, it'd be like, also, do you have a script? I'll give you the script with my apple fritter.
It could fund your next script, though. It could fund your next script.
Yeah, I could. But I'd be selling my apple fritters, and then I'd be hearing 2 people in line talking about how they just sold their movie about, this great movie about a guy who created donuts. And then I'd be literally just I'd be angry eating my donut as I hear 2 people talk about a movie that they just sold that took them 7 days to write.
Yeah, it took a day to write.
Took a day to write it. And then to celebrate, they're buying my donuts. And they're like, we'll have one of each. We're celebrating. We just sold a movie about donuts called Donuts Oops. And then I'd be like, what? And I'd just lie down on the floor and cry.
Oh, no. But wait a second. When you lay down on the floor to cry, you have a really gorgeous, beautiful daughter I saw on Instagram. I mean, you're talking about being sad about your script, but your baby Georgie, she is so cute. I was telling Tish, I was like, have you seen this baby? Like, no, I mean, like the world lights up. I was like, that smile. And I'm just going to tell you, I've taken care of a lot of kids, so I know babies. That's a cute baby. You wouldn't even be able to be sad.
Well, full disclosure, there was a long casting search to find the perfect baby. And she's going to be good for a while. I mean, it would have been great if we had a twin because that's always a lot easier. But she has been great. She's a wonderful little actress. Every time we turn on the camera and are like, smile, pretend like I'm your dad. And little Georgie she is pretty special. Listen, between Austin and Georgie, I am very, very lucky. And Georgie's mom is the sunshine that makes everything happen.
Well, they can sell the donuts.
Oh.
Ever thought about that?
Now you're bringing it full circle, and I like that.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. All I heard was I don't have to work, and someone brings me donuts. That's all. I don't know if I got the full message you were spreading, but I think I did.
Yeah, basically.
Well, Tish, we got a question.
Did
you see that?
We do have a question.
From
So Davon is asking what your plans are to film for film production during COVID.
That is the number one question on everyone's mind. Our show for Netflix is called The Crew. We were filming in Long Island, and when we were just finished episode 7 of 10 when we were shut down, and we are now making every effort to get back to complete filming. And the good news is every union is acting responsibly to try to get the safest way for the cast, for the crew, for background artists, for everyone in the office, for the drivers. We have to make this a safe environment. And and we are doing that. And at the same time, we got to get back to filming. Everybody, you got to find a way to pick up where we left off. And it means getting creative. But I think one of the things we do best in as storytellers is we get creative. Is we find a way that if somebody says to you, hey guys, I love your script, but you can't do it on this bridge. I can't afford that bridge. Well, then you go back and you rewrite and figure out how to do it. So in this current environment where we are dealing with social distancing issues, we're dealing with how to make it safe, how to stage it, and how to make it still look natural, you get creative. And every day we have these conversations and multiple projects of ours that were in mode of going. It's now about going, but doing it right. And as soon as we can address all the issues that everybody needs addressed, rightfully so, we'll be up and running.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, because I've done like 6 COVID plans right now for the unions.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like there's going to be somewhat of a new normal, like a shift in how we are going to interact on sets. And the challenge for like someone like me as a line producer has been, how can I explain to people that only can be like a certain amount of people in this area when it's your job to light, when it's your job to powder, the days are going to be longer, you have to add more to your budget. So I do feel like there's going to be like a different way. Maybe we talked about the French model on one of our shows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Talked about the French model. You saw an article.
Well, I saw an article that basically was talking about the death and rebirth of Hollywood. And basically it was just talking about how our economy, not just the entertainment industry, but our economy in general has gone through a crisis. Yeah. And what they were saying with the entertainment industry is that they're going to move towards a French model, which is going to be like less hours on set, but longer periods of shooting, and also just a really great time for people who are creating and writing. Like Hollywood is going to shift. How do you think that it's going to shift, and how can people, a lot of artists and entrepreneurs watch the show, how can they position themselves so that they can like level up during this shift?
I think one of the things, even on a macro level, after 9/11, everything that happened with TSA and airports, where all of a sudden we were like, I have to take my shoes off, I have to take my computer out, that became a huge shift. We weren't used to it. You didn't go to the airport and undergo it, and that is our new normal. That is what we know now. We have been educated, and I think in film, for a lot of people who might not know, that the notion of French hours is really this notion of a shorter kind of an actual shorter shooting day that takes out delays. And one of the biggest delays, a lot of times, weirdly enough, is lunch. Lunch becomes a sit down. How do you get everybody in there eating? I take a 5-hour lunch. No matter what day. Even today, I took a 5. I'm almost done with my lunch. I'm not done yet. I'm on hour 4 of my 5-hour lunch. I took a break to do this, and then I'm going to go back and finish that, and then I'll take a short break before dinner, obviously. But if you take that lunch out, if you take the time, if you take actors out of the equation where you're sending them back, now they have to do touch-ups and all that's an hour and a half, 2 hours out of your day very quickly. And the French idea is not that way of, and not just in France do they do it. It happens all over the place. The idea is a little bit more of a walking lunch. The idea is that person can go off and get that food for 15 minutes, and everybody, you just keep going. So your day ends earlier. There's probably a good way for that anyway, because we've always dealt with safety issues. When you start pushing 13, 14, 15, 16-hour days for people, like that's dangerous. People get tired. So but it means that model of you going in as a line producer, you creating a period of time with the script. If the scripts don't get shorter, then you're probably adding a few more days. And what's interesting is usually a few more days is cheaper than overtime. That when you start adding onto your schedule, if you usually say, well, if I have 3 more days versus hot cost every night of overtime, I go 2 hours over every night, the overtime is what's killing you. You could have easily had those days. So I think that we will approach it with what's the best way. And also we're trying to stay healthy. And anyone who's been on a film set or a TV set knows that, we were just recirculating, you'd come in sick because you thought, I got to film my scene today. And you would do that. And somebody would come over and, give you hand sanitizer for 8 seconds. And that was it. We just kept working. The pandemic has taught us that there has to be a completely new way to do it. And that means if so-and-so shows up to work and they are running a fever, you send them home. You don't question, let's get the shot. But then, when we're filming, we have rain cover. If it was raining outside, we're going to go in and do that. Well, I think you're going to have to approach filming like rain cover all the time, which is, oh, so-and-so Tish got sick. She can't work today. Therefore, what can we still shoot and make the most of our day? So that could mean days get a little bit longer. But on the shortened side, it means that maybe you're going home earlier, safer, and getting some sleep, so you're not sick all the time.
Yeah, and I agree. I've never been a huge fan of overtime because of the turnaround. Yeah. You want to get daylight. You want to get in as early as possible, and it's almost impossible without having to do overtime and rolling over overtime and then rolling over overtime unless you have a break. So I've never been a huge fan of having 12 to 14-hour days because people get upset too. Their moods are directly impacted by the lack of sleep that they get. And
by the way, if you interrupt my 5-hour lunch and tell me I got to go back to get to work, I'm going to be angry. I am not done with my sleep. I always like to finish.
Someone in the comments says they're a fan of your 5-hour lunch.
Thank you. Finally, I am pushing this. This doesn't just have to be me, people. This could be a national campaign that We take back our 5-hour lunch. At some point, I think there was a 5-hour lunch, and then somebody was like, no more 5-hour lunch.
Some corporate head was like, you know what?
They were Tish, they were looking at the bottom line, and they're like, let me get this straight. If we didn't have a 5-hour lunch, what else would they do for like 4 of those 5 hours? Would they work? That's one way to think about it. I don't know if that's
maybe.
You know what I would do if you took away my 5-hour lunch and told me I had 1 hour? I'd spend 4 hours thinking about my 5-hour lunch that I eat. I would just write in my journal. I'd start journaling, and I would write what I was going to have on my next out. Because now I got to think. You don't have 5 hours to make decisions. Yes, Andy for president. Yeah,
there we go.
That is my one campaign slogan. That's our way to get our country back.
There you go.
It has nothing to do with the French. There's going to be America's 5-hour lunch plan. That's my.
Well, Andy, so have you been making a lot of quarantine meals? Because I know, like, during the quarantine, that's all I think about is what I'm going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I've been very blessed that my wife has been making a lot of the quarantine meals. We are in lovely Minnesota with my amazing mother-in-law who's been making quarantine meals. I have made 0 quarantine meals. I have eaten quarantine meals, so I am now feeling the COVID-19, which is more like the COVID-22 right now on me. We'll see how it all works out.
So your mother-in-law, she's running a cafeteria. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. They said they feel like they're running a cafeteria in the quarantine.
Jan said, I remember one day we sat down and she said she was like, so I'm sort of bored with what we're cooking. And we're like, don't be bored. It's amazing. And then we just gave her a list of other, do you know how to make Chateaubriand? And she didn't, but she'll learn. She will learn. We're going to be here forever. Never leave.
That's what you have to do, because it just seems like we're going to be in quarantine forever. Forever.
I know.
So, I also think there are a lot of young filmmakers out here. And I think, I always tell people that you can be multifaceted in this industry. Like, you have people who are directors who turn producers who turn actors. So for people who don't necessarily have the skills, or they don't understand like a skill set, what advice would you give them to maybe transition from one to the next?
I would definitely say that practicing, like, what's great about storytelling now is how much you can do storytelling on your own. So if you are a writer, go write. If you have never thought about writing, then try it. If you are a filmmaker, take your phone and try to shoot a story. Like what I've been impressed with stuff like TikTok is in short form, how many people have all of a sudden created so much TikTok content. And same with what was happening on, Instagram. So what I'm seeing is a lot of people who are homebound, who are getting an opportunity to pick up their phone and start creating. And I think you have to, again, no one's going to pick up the phone and call you and tell you to do that. If there is a part of you thinking about it, if you're an actor, what are you doing? Don't just wait, create. And go out and do. By the way, that sounded pretty good when I said like that's on a shirt.
Yeah, that was actually really good.
Just put that down. But if there was but I think you have to go out and really create every day, and it's hard because if no one's motivating you, but you have that dream. I think if somebody's a singer, they pick up the phone and they sing. If a painter just picks up and paints and starts going, and you're only going to get better the more you do it. It's never going to be a home run the first time that it's out the gate.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you until you got your first opportunity? Because you said you moved from Texas to LA and then you worked at Universal, but how long was it until you landed that executive position to get like your foot in the door?
I mean, it took a while. I was a tour guide for a couple of months, and then I ended up going in the mailroom of a talent agency called Triad, which then became, weirdly enough, the agency where I'm represented with now is what became ultimately Triad, where Triad had started. So I'm repped by where I used to be in the mailroom. And I did that for about a year. And then I got this opportunity with Gene Wilder. And when I got the opportunity with Gene Wilder, that began everything. So I'd say it was about a year and a half of just trying to figure that out. But then, then it was another 5-6 years of trying to put the focus on what does it mean to be an executive. Like then it became that, and all the while trying to figure out what I'm doing as a writer, what I'm doing as a director.
As artists, I know sometimes for me, I always feel like, okay, I dive into everything that I do. Like, I'm quite sure when you were at the mailroom, you were just really into the mailroom. And when you were executive, you were really into the executive. Like, how did you like keep those feelings at bay of like, okay, I'm doing what I need to do to like pay my bills, but also like I have this goal, like that I want to achieve? Like, how did you navigate that kind of mental tug of war, but still stay motivated?
I found myself really focused on, first of all, I really was excited that I was a tour guide. I was like, I am at Universal Studios. Like I'm wearing a name tag. I've just graduated from college and my name tag says Andy. And I am wearing, I think the wardrobe was like called the Swiss design or something. But I had a tram, and people would call and ask me. All my friends had just graduated college, and they were all like going to become bankers and doctors and lawyers, and they'd be like, "What are you doing in Hollywood?" And I was like, "Public relations for Universal Studios." They're like, "That's amazing. Can we come visit you?" And I'm like, "If you spend $37 and get a ticket, you can." And see me on my tram. So by the time I got into the mailroom, I was excited about that opportunity. But I remember calling everybody I knew because I felt like I'd just been given new information about, oh God, this is how Hollywood really works. And so as much as it was, I didn't dream of someday working in a mailroom. It was something that I just felt such a tremendous opportunity, and I just tried to absorb it all every day. And then I think it started to becoming like, oh, I don't know if I want to be an agent. I think I want to be more creative. So that opportunity to go working for Gene Wilder and Susan Ruskin was a tremendous opportunity to start paving a different pathway. Like I pivoted at that moment. If not, I would have stayed. And, there were definitely times I thought about it. It was like, oh, maybe that's what I'm meant to do. But the storytelling wasn't going to happen going that route.
Yeah. I hear a lot of artists say that, when they've really found their purpose, it's like something's just tugging at them, pulling at them, because a lot of the times, and I started as an actress. That's how I met Andrew, FYI. And Andrew, because
Andrew Schaefer, the greatest talent, puts all people together. He is the best.
Yeah, he's so amazing. I met Andrew Schaefer because I was auditioning, and it was actually between my transition from being an actor to a line producer, which I'm still an actress, but I mostly for work because I get paid. And at the time I had anxiety about not being paid as an actress.
Sure.
It was so much anxiety. But like between that and between being an actress and the transition of being a line producer, I still had that thing that thing tugging me at the creative part. Did you feel that way when you were an executive? Did you feel like something was tugging you towards the?
Every moment I would leave, my executive job at 7 and drive to the theater with Andrew Schaefer, and we would work at Fountainhead Theater. We would create from 8 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock the next morning, and then drive it. So the day job, the Hollywood job, was like that everybody thought was so great, which it was not fulfilling me creatively. It was the theater job where I was working with a bunch of friends for no money and, trying to figure out who was going to go buy toilet paper that week. That was because after a 5-hour lunch, you're going to want toilet paper. I'm not a scientist, but that is science right there working for you. But there was always that thing. I didn't, I'd be in meetings listening to a director or a writer or producer talk, and I would think, oh, no, that's not what I would do. And I was like, well, it is not my place to tell them what I would do. If I want to do it, I got to go do it. And so it was very clear to me that I was being pulled to do that.
Yeah. And I think, I tell artists all the time that just because you're good at something, like people have like certain skills, like I'm really good at like money or finance. That doesn't necessarily mean that's your vision for life,
Yeah.
Because you're very skilled at something, just because you're a skilled carpenter, that doesn't mean you can't be a great actor.
No way. Harrison Ford started, he was an amazing carpenter, and to this day he's still I think he still builds, but that's what he was an amazing carpenter. Like that was a skill of his. I don't have that skill. I don't.
And George Clooney was a great farmer. He was a really great farmer as well.
Yeah, that's right. I remember him saying that.
Yeah.
And you're a great 5-hour lunch taker.
Yeah, my skill, Harrison Ford had that, and Clooney. Like mine is really more produce based, because I like to go. I go from, a lot of people go from farm to table. I just go from farm to mouth, and then you skip the table. I don't let Harrison Ford build the table. I don't need it.
We need to get you a picnic bib.
I just need, you know what, that bib. I need Georgie's bib.
Yes, Georgie.
That's what I need.
I want to I'm going to let you ask the question about the protest.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if have you been out protesting, Andy?
I have not left this basement.
Okay.
Since March.
That's okay. So I've been out protesting, and some of the chants that I've been hearing, they're very creative. Like people are getting very creative, and protesting is a very serious thing, racial injustice and all of that. But sometimes when I've been protesting, I've been hearing like chants and repeating things that I don't want to repeat. Like I didn't sign up for that. So, but I'm saying it, and I realized I didn't sign up for that. So everybody that comes on the show, we believe in using our platform for change. And so we do want to say, arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor. Number one.
Yes.
And the second thing is, if you were leading your own protest to make this world a better place for baby Georgie and Austin, what would your chant be?
Does it have to be do I have to write it in chant form?
No, it could be a phrase of whatever, something that you want to tell the world to make it a better place. Or
aside from 5-hour lunches, which I think would be and I think you could do it to like that Subway, like 5-hour lunches, like that, right? I would just I literally, it's what you kind of think of every day, which is stop with the madness. Like it is just, I don't understand. Look, I grew up white, Jewish, in West Texas. So white could work good in West Texas. Jewish wasn't always the place. And so all of us, a lot of times, have our own things that we've dealt with. That shouldn't be the case for any of us. I mean, it shouldn't be, this should not be a conversation. Certainly should not be a conversation in 2020. And then it shouldn't be a conversation because what is the alternate argument? Like, what conversation is, I have an opinion, what is your opinion? There should, like, if I go outside and we all agree air keeps us alive, I don't imagine someone's gonna come up to me and counter that. Well, nope, air's bad. Let me tell you why. My grandfather, he created air. Right. My grandma, 500 years ago, we created it. Like, we just all accept that as like fact.
Right.
So when you turn on the news and you see what happens around the globe, and especially here in our country, and you see the importance of people out with their voice singing out. Right. Part of the madness is why, like, thank you for doing it. Why are we in a society that you have to do that? And why is there someone on the other side that has a different opinion of what is just normal? What is just, like, that to me is just like, I can't get, now, by the way, all of that is going to be very hard to condense to a chant. So I would get back to the 5-hour lunch, because then probably everybody will just go for that more than the.
I think people would be happier if, I think that the 5-hour lunch would probably make this world a better place because people would be happier. So I think that is the chance.
I think you're right. If we had a 5-hour lunch, there would be somebody who would be like, my grandfather had a 9-hour lunch. 9-hour lunches built this country. There's a statue of the guy who created 9-hour lunches, and it's right there.
There's always going to be one. There's always going to be one.
By the way, I'd appreciate it if it was only just one. Sometimes one brings friends, and you're like, how did all of you, was there something in the, like, the gene pool that everybody swam in? And
they call that the Karens and the Kevins of the world.
Also, even that, it's all over the internet. When you do something stupid like that, what shouldn't that be enough to be like, I should not become a crazy racist on camera? Shouldn't that be the thing that, like, note to self, safety belt on, 10 and 2 at the wheel, don't say crazy racist shit. Like, you're gonna film it. And then don't act all crazy like, I can't believe I lost my job as a school administrator.
Well, yeah.
That part right there.
That part. There you go. There you go.
Thank you so much for coming, Andy.
And you should see the comments. Everybody, they're laughing. They're laughing. And I think it's like, while everybody's quarantined, this is the laugh that they need.
You got it. But it's a hard industry. You gotta laugh. Half the time I say stuff, but later on I'm telling someone, like, that I'm just trying to have some fun right now. But you gotta laugh. And you also just doing what you two did, which was you called each other and said, hey, let's do something. Let's create something. And now you've created something. And hopefully what it means is today and other shows that you've done will inspire other people who are sitting there watching and saying, yeah, what am I going to create? And the best thing about creating, you can start anytime. It doesn't happen on a Monday or a Friday or Saturday. Doesn't happen at any age. Doesn't be like, I know sometimes we set that goal of, like, in 5 years, if I haven't done this, I'm going to do something else. Like, you have the ability to create.
I'm happy you said that, because that's one of the reasons why we wanted to do this, is really to inspire artists, because I just see so many talented people all the time. And it's just, all it takes is for you to just believe in yourself and create your own opportunities, which is the point, people.
That is the point.
Opportunities.
And we wanted to just be truthful in doing it. So all of the wealth of knowledge that you just dropped in this interview, Andy, I mean, people can clearly see that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in the presence of fear. You were scared at times, you were unsure at times, but you did it anyway. And I mean, me and Tish are scared sometimes, but we do it anyway. So hopefully,
still scared and still unsure every day. Like, I keep waiting, you know, I'm still waiting for the moment where I'm like, oh, now I can see how easy my career in Hollywood, and now I can see how easy this is. Every day is a new challenge. Every day is something that you're like, oh, didn't expect that. No greater than us all waking up one day and having the pandemic that we're currently in, and seeing how it's affected so many lives, and seeing how it's going to continue to affect lives. But we're still now figuring out, all right, how do we roll with that? How do we come, like, you can't just lie down and give up. You figure out how to move forward. And in any element that you do in the entertainment industry, and probably, I think, in any job, you got to figure out how to just move forward. It's going to be bad days and good days.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the goal. Andy, thank you so much again, guys. We are so excited that you joined us again this evening. And
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. So, guys, we will see you next Thursday, 8 p.m., same time.
Oh, wait, Tish. Also, Andy, what is your Instagram handle so everybody can follow you on social media?
I don't know.
It's Her Director. Director.
Yeah.
Her Director.
HerDirektor. Here's how you know the interview has just ended horribly. When they're like, Andy, what's your last name? And you're like, no. I made an origami triangle. It's a triangle. And it can go that way or that way.
Guys, blow his social media up. Follow him. He's awesome, as you can clearly see, so you can stay updated with everything that he's doing. Okay.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
This was a good fun.